The US military has depleted much of its inventory of advanced missile defense interceptors after expending far more high-end ammunition defending Israel amid hostilities with Iran than Israeli forces use themselves. According to a report, the US military fired more than 200 THAAD interceptors, nearly half of its total stockpile, along with over 100 SM-3s and SM-6 naval interceptors during Operation Epic Fury. In comparison, Israel reportedly used fewer than 100 Arrow interceptors and around 90 David Sling systems. US officials say Washington carried the bulk of the missile defense burden as the Iran launched repeated ballistic missile attacks. Now, military analysis is that imbalance is now raising concerns about America's military readiness and its ability to respond to crises in other regions. Experts say the depletion of the interceptor stock has alarmed key US allies like Japan and South Korea, which depend on American missile defense support against threat from North Korea and China. The report also highlights growing tension beneath the strong public messaging between Washington and Tel Aviv. While both sides describe the cooperation with a sort of a close thing between the United States of America, there is a second assessment that says that the American forces have absorbed a bigger share of the strategic and operational cost. Officials further warn that if hostilities with Iran resume, the US may be forced to use even more interceptors, especially as some Israeli missile defense batteries are temporarily offline for maintenance, and maybe they have been rendered useless because of the attrition which war has. Now, Netanyahu and Trump, meanwhile, had a tense phone call about the path towards peace, the future. But Netanyahu's persistent pressure to restart the war has irritated some UN officials, particularly given the strain that renewed fighting would impose on the Pentagon's ammunition supply. Meanwhile, the acting secretary of the US Navy said that the arms sales to Taiwan had been put on pause to ensure that American military had sufficient ammunition for its Iran operation. So the big question that I am asking today is, has war drained US of its top inventory? One. And second, can depletion of top inventory affect Ukrainian and Taiwan theatre? On this issue, I am joined by Air Commodore Dr. Ashpinder Singh Bihal. I am also will be joined by Major General Sudhakar ji. But first, I will go to Dr. Bahal. Dr. Bahal, okay, 50% of the THAAD interceptors, is it a serious issue, or we are just looking at one segment of the integrated, layered American defense that is in place?
Thank you, Jain, for calling me. I could not get your last sentence, but I understand what context you have been talking of. Can you hear me?
Just yes, absolutely.
Great. Now, I want to tell you, first thing is that before any war commences, we have options, like if this situation occurs, then we are going to do this. And then we calculate as to the number of days that war is likely to take place. In which case, we take into account that maybe it is 3 weeks or a 4 weeks war. And then we work out the war waging reserves. This means somewhere down the line, right in the beginning itself, both America and Israel had underestimated the capacity of Iran to extend the war to 39 days. And today it is over 80 days that they are still continuing in terms of Straits of Hormuz. So when we are looking at this underestimation has really taken the Americans and Israelis for a 6 as far as air defense systems are concerned. The second thing is the wide variety of ballistic missiles and drones that have been developed by Iran, which includes those that are hypersonic, those that are maneuverable while re-entering, which have hypersonic glide vehicles, or even which have multiple cluster bombs. That means around 80 to 100 cluster bombs, small bomblets. Therefore, you have a wide area effect. Now, it is extremely difficult when you have such missiles which travel at a speed of 15 to 18 Mach, which means about 18,000 to 20,000 kilometers per hour. Though Israel has one of the best integrated multi-tiered air defense systems in the world, with Arrow 3 starting from 2,400 kilometers. And then you come down to Arrow 2, THAAD, you come down to Patriot Advanced Capability 3. You also have in between David Sling, and you have Iron Dome. Now, we found in this war that two of their systems, that is David Sling and Arrow 2, did not perform that well when it came to intercepting missiles that were coming exo-atmospheric and that were maneuvering or coming at a high speed. The second thing that we found, Iron Dore's limitation is a 70-kilometer range only, and that is it's taking into account last terminal system itself. But the best system that performed was THAAD. And THAAD has a range of around 200 kilometers, height of 150 kilometers, and its probability of intercept is very high. It is said that even if you have the best intercept systems in the world, you can only intercept 90 to 92% of the missiles, in which case they did intercept 90 to 92%. Okay. And that is the reason why 200 plus missiles of THAAD were used. Now, but when we look at 200 plus use, that is 120 missiles more than what the Israelis used. When we are looking at this, we are also looking at recuperation rate, which means the rate at which you can bring back the resupply of these missiles. You'll be surprised to know that for 2026, they had planned only 37 THAAD missile, and they were planning only 620 Patriot missile interceptors in a full year. And each Patriot interceptor missile cost $4.9 million and THAAD cost $12.67 million, which means they are intercepting a lower cost ballistic missile worth $500,000 with a missile that is 8 to 10 times its cost.
What I'm surprised actually. This is my real question. Welcome, General Sudhakarji. That's my real question. Is American inventory so understocked that a 52-day operation can deplete their layered defense system? And then there is a report that they are not going to export $14 billion worth arms to Taiwan. Does it mean it is affecting the capacity or the global outreach, or global military reach? General Sudhakarji. Yeah, General Sudhakarji.
Okay.
Can you unmute yourself? Please unmute yourself.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible now.
Yeah. Karthikeya, good evening. Thank you. Compliments to my distinguished co-panelist as regards the question which you have asked. You see, $14 billion for Taiwan is a different part of the story. Okay. Because that is a commitment of 25 billion, out of which I think 11 billion has already been sanctioned in 2025, and the weapon cartels have started going across to Taiwan. This 14 billion has got hinged or has got held up because of the summit which Donald Trump and Xi had. And Xi has actually taken an indirect commitment from Donald Trump to withhold this particular supply worth about 14 billion. So that's a different matter. We'll tackle it. But the moot question, central question which you have raised is that despite being a superpower, is the inventory so ill-stocked that it runs out of it, gets depleted in such a short kind of a war? No, it is to be seen in a holistic manner. The war has been going on for quite some time. We are not actually taking count of 7th October 2023. They have been supplying their arms, weapons, ammunition, control stores, warlike stores from 24th of February 2022, the Russia-Ukraine war. And at a regular interval, they have been providing these hardwares to Ukraine. And they have every armed force has got a limited stock. They have got the first line, that is the front line. They have an intermediate line of stock. They have a third line, which is the strategic reserve. What is happening is, in case of Iran, the cost of winning the war has been raised to prohibitive level. When I say cost of war, it is in terms of the money, which Air Commodore Bahal has very beautifully explained. The fact is that when a drone is costing $20,000, that is in case of a Shahid drone by Iran, to negate that drone, USA has to use minimum one missile, and that missile is costing $4 million. But being a military man, I can say with a lot of confidence that any aerial moving platform cannot be neutralized with one missile. They have to fire minimum 2 to 3. So when you fire 2 to 3 shots, that itself is costing 12 million to $20,000. So look at the cost disparity or disproportionate. That is one. Second thing, which Air Commodore Bahal also brought out, is that the cost factor. One interceptor costs you anything between 1.1 million to 11.1. The latest advanced one, which I have read today morning, is going up to $111 million. And it takes 1.5 to 3 years to manufacture. So there is a cost factor, money factor. There is also a factor of the time required to manufacturing capability is not able to cope up. That is the speed at which it needs to be replaced. Similarly, the Tomahawk. Tomahawk capacity is 84 Tomahawk missiles in a year. Entire defense industry.
Is there one more factor? Is there one more factor? Because, you know, these are the cheap Shaheed Iran drones. Is there one more factor that the American defense, and this question is for both of you, first to Dr. Bahal and then General Sudhakarji can come, that in last 100 years, you know, the American defense infrastructure or the industry has evolved around high-tech and very expensive gadgetry. Last 20 years globally, because of the rise of the asymmetric warfare, the answer had come in form of cheaper deterrent, you know, drones. And I think, is that where Americans have lost out, Dr. Bahal?
Absolutely. The countries that go into high intensity warfare, if they are equally matched, use high technology weapon systems as well as drones. But now those countries that cannot match the ability of the other country, like for example, America spends $902 or $4 billion in defense, that budget, and it is planning to increase it to $1.5 trillion, whereas Iran only spends $10 to $12 billion of defense in a year. So when we are looking at these asymmetries, you use asymmetric elements, drones like Shahid 136, 128, which cost anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000. So when we are looking at that, and a missile interceptor system such as the Patriot Advanced Capability 3, PAC-3 missile, which costs 4.9, and a THAAD missile, which costs $12.67 million per missile, you are finding cost asymmetry. But the most important thing is not this. There is a production area or a scale that is there. For example, you have a total capacity of America at 2,330 Patriot missiles. That is their war waging reserve. And the total missile stock for THAAD is just 534. They already utilized 1,430 PAC-3 missiles, and when we include the 12-day war of June, and also they have utilized close to 200 plus missiles in this THAAD missiles, and if you take into account the June 2025 war, they have completed 45% of their Patriot missile ability, and they have consumed close to 50% of their THAAD capability. Last thing I want to say in this, that it is for this reason that now directed energy weapons are also making their way, and they are looking into two aspects. One, magazine depth vulnerability. In case of air defense systems, we use this term magazine depth vulnerability.
Okay, let me just add one more thing. You know, this might interest you, because this is what the Navy Secretary of the United States of America has said, General Sudhakarji. You know, he says, and this is at the congressional hearing on Thursday, and he says, right now we are doing a pause in order to make sure we have the munitions we need for epic fury. This is in context of Taiwan. Then he went on to add, which we have plenty. Then he said, we are just making sure we have everything. Then the foreign military sales will continue when the administration deems necessary. He said this at a congressional hearing, sir. Mr. Han Kao.
Yeah. No, Karthikeyan, you're absolutely bang on, I would say. But there is also another cost, because we have covered the cost, raising the cost of winning a war in terms of money, in terms of manufacturing capability. There is a third cost. Every military hardware being used by USA today, USA or Israel, it contains the high percentage of rare earth element or a very specialized variety of magnets. Okay, let me just very quickly give you. China buys something around F-35 contains 418 kgs of rare earth element processed through Chinese supply chains. One, China processes over 90% of world's rare earth elements. USA is 70 to 100% import dependent on China for heavy rare earths, that go into F-35 actuators, missile guidance systems, radars, stealth coatings. Then you have precision munition as per the Congressional Research Service USGS, and then you have benchmark mineral intelligence. Likewise, if you go into the details, things like, you have Virginia class of submarines, they require something close to 4,000.
So are you saying that America may be witnessing a shortfall of this rare earth?
Yeah,
and they're not admitting it.
America has got a stock. If you go into the documents, their documents research, they are supposed to maintain a stock of 3 months of rare earth elements. They have already gone beyond the second month. They're into the third month. And in the third month, the stocks have already reached the lowest level of strategic reserve. They're dependent on China. China is arm twisting. If you recall, last year, sometime in October, Donald Trump and Xi, they had committed to each other, and the weaponization of the rare earth element, which China had taken,
that's a strong point, sir,
suspended for 1 year. That is to be extended or not, that itself is a very big thing, you talk about Tomahawk, talk about interceptor, everything requires a specialized variety of magnets which are processed only by China.
Okay, Dr. Bahal.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing. What the biggest lesson that has come out from this war is the inadequate quantity of counter drone systems. For example, India did produce D4 counter drone system, which is that drone detect, deter, and destroy, which had a range of about 1 to 2 kilometers. Now that has been increased to 3.5 to 4 kilometers. What we require today, especially to counter the cheap $20,000 to $50,000 drones, is also drone interceptors, both in the air, like the ones that has been used by the Russians to intercept the Ukrainian, or Ukrainians, which has Sting interceptors to intercept the Russian drones. Simultaneously, we require to deploy the counter drone systems on ground in adequate quantity in the key vulnerable areas and key areas. And this is one very important lesson that has come out in this war, that America did not and Israel did not have adequate counter drone systems. And that is where the directed energy weapon systems in future are going to play a very key role.
Directed energy weapon system. Closing comment from General Sudhakarji.
Very quick points. You see, one issue we have not discussed, none of the channels are discussing, are the deployment of decoys. There were a large number of decoys.
I'm thinking, because there's no way I can match either the experience or the intellect of my guests, especially from the services. I'm going to keep at the end of it a sumoto session. 5 minutes sumoto. You decide what you want to discuss, because the best comes always in the end. And yes, decoys. Please go ahead, sir.
The decoys that I'm talking of, while America and Israel, both of them together, they claim that they have decimated everything. Army, Navy, Air Force, submarine ships, and everything has been decimated. They decimated only the decoys. The real hardware was 600 meters under the ground in very technically developed tunnels. They had the vehicles could move in the tunnel 600 meters deep inside. That is one. Second thing, they have not actually factored in a very important issue. That issue is the satellite integrated, overlapping, all-weather Baidu satellite network of China, which was providing them with accurate intelligence, the initial lock-in data, the mid-course correction, and the terminal guidance to all if not all, major projectiles which are being fired by the, I would say, loiter ammunition, by the missile system. And third and most important thing, again, Kartikeya, I'm harping on this issue at the cost of reputation. People have actually got swayed by a miscalculation from the open source data, which is actually factually wrong. Iran as a country is not having only 3,000 missiles. It has got many, many missiles. I have counted, given you a count from 84 to 85 with a capability of 30 missiles per month. 1 year, 360, multiplied by those many years. Even if you say they are old missiles, you will be surprised to learn that the success has been achieved by Iran primarily by asymmetric deterrence. When you say asymmetric deterrence, The factor is these old missiles have been necessitated. There has been a mix of old missiles with the loiter ammunition and the swarm drones which have gone across the Iron Dome, and they have surprised and deceived the interceptors. Interceptors have not been able to cope up with the speed, with the enormity, with the quantum of these projectiles coming into Israel, and they have knocked off. They have gone as close as to
That's the
Dimona.
irony. Americans
Dimona
are learning
nuclear
new
reactor.
warfare from the weaker adversaries. You know, Americans are learning the style of new warfare from the weaker adversaries. Some, you know, that a country which, you know, had a special operation group as a command way back in late 70s. I think that's the moral of the story.